Hello everyone, it's Angel from GemTCG, and in today's video I'm going to tell you guys why I am no longer planning on vending anymore, at least in the near future, and just talk about how my past two experiences have gone. And I promise it's not clickbait, I actually don't plan on vending anymore, but there are many reasons why that's the case, and I'm only speaking for my experience and my opinions on the thing. So if you enjoy vending, or maybe you haven't tried it, don't let this steer you away from it, but rather just take it as a way to gain some more insight on how it actually goes. And just for some context, this is my second time doing it, and the table cost, I think it was $55, and I sold around $2,200 worth of product. I think I traded around $800 worth of product, and then I bought around, I believe, $1,200 worth of cards. Now, those numbers are all pretty good for one day's work, but what I will talk about in this video will make it make sense on why it's not as good as it sounds. Because on just a numbers standpoint, sure, being there for one day and making $2,000 in sales sounds great, but all the time that goes into it, all the time that you have to spend being there, talking to people and doing all these transactions, it's very tiring, or at least for me it is. And personally, I do not enjoy that as much. And it kind of relates to that video I made about burnout and how if this is something that does burn you out, then maybe it's not the right thing for you. And I think that's what I experienced with the vending. And both times I've done it, the day before the show, I felt like extremely, I guess, anxious, maybe the word, or stressed out in anticipation of the event happening, because I was like, oh, I need to have all these things priced. I need to make sure that I don't price it too low, because if maybe the price went up, so I need to do it the day before to protect myself as much as possible in case a card goes up. And grabbing all the inventory, putting it in my car, and then loading it up properly. And then another thing is, it's small, but it's actually very important to me. So throughout the week, I am very busy. I have the work from 9 to 5, and then I'm working basically all day after that. So I barely sleep. I probably get like 6 hours of sleep during the week. So I look forward to that Saturday and Sunday to sleep in. So having to wake up at 8 a.m. on Saturday, it feels like my work week is a 6-day work week instead of 5 days, which for me sucks, and I really don't enjoy that. So that's just another reason on why it stresses me out and I don't enjoy it as much. And another thing is just, like, sure, $2,200 is great. That's obviously a lot of money. But when you look at my sales on eBay and TCGplayer, I can do around 1,000 a day, or I do 1,000 a day. And then obviously if some higher end cards sell, I do more. And for me, putting in that entire day's worth of work the day before, and then also that 8-hour time period on the day of, to make an extra $1,000 or $1,500, it just isn't worth it, because it's not like those cards wouldn't sell on eBay. And it's not like I'm generating extra income. I'm simply just finding a new route to sell them. And I would rather do that if I wanted to, because the main thing that people talk about is the fees that you get to save on when you're selling at a show. If I wanted to actually save on the fees, I could just go on Facebook Marketplace or groups and try to sell it there. And even though I'm a big hater on selling on the Facebook groups, I'd rather do that, because at least I can just make my post. I don't have to leave the house. I don't have to prep anything and get any displays ready and pull the cards out for my inventory and all that. So if you wanted to sell higher end stuff, that's probably what I would do. And another thing is just, a lot of people at the card shows are looking for the lower end items, from what I've experienced. And I'm only speaking from one event, one card show that I've worked at. I've never done multiple venues. I've only done this one specific one. And there's the main two people are the ones that want to fill up their binder with $5 to $10 cards, which is great. And then there's the other people that want to get the expensive cards for grading. And now, if you've vended before, you know how time consuming it is working with those people, because they look through every single card and they just want to pull them all out. look at like 10, 15 cards and then hand them all back to you and say they're not interested. The amount of times that has happened in the past 2 times that I've vended is pretty high. And then the other person, like I mentioned, is the binder people. And I enjoy dealing with those people a lot because that's even what my eBay store is catered towards. But like I mentioned before, pricing all the cards out beforehand and then putting them in a binder just for 10% of them to sell, it's extremely time consuming and it's not worth the time or money to me, because if I'm saving 10% on fees from a $3 card, that's 30 cents. But the time I had to go in and put for that card is not worth 30 cents. And add that up for 500 plus cards, and you can see my logic on that. And also, I noticed this video is more of negative stuff, and I really don't enjoy talking negatively about things, but I just want to be honest and share my experience so that you guys see how it is, because a lot of you have been asking how my show went and how the vending experience as a whole has been. So I want to be fully transparent. I don't want to overly exaggerate on positive stuff or negative stuff. I just want to explain my logic on why I don't enjoy it and why I don't plan on doing it in the future. And there was some good examples or scenarios that happened at the show. One of which was I brought a full 3-row box of reverse hollows and hollows, and I was selling them for 2 for $1 and then 15 for $5. So around 33 cents per card if they bought a bunch. And I made a few sales with those. Some people came, they just bought 2 cards. Some people bought 8 cards, and then other people, one guy came by and he gave me a Destin Rivals booster bundle and 2 Stellar Crown packs for, I believe it was 180 reverse hollows, which if you do the math on that, 180 reverse hollows is probably, what, $5? And I traded that for $50 worth of product, so super big win on that. And that did really well. Another thing was I've had a lot of almost like junk slabs. They were PSA 8s and 9s of baby shiny cards. And I've had them listed on my eBay for probably the past 1.5 or 2 years, and I've sold maybe 2 of them. And I decided, let me just take these, see how they go. So I put them in a box, and I did. Each slab is $10, and I'm losing money on that, but I am recouping some of the money, which is fine with me because they were just taking up space. No one's going to buy them for $25 on eBay. And even after all that, shipping and fees, I'll probably net $15. So I figured I'll just dump them there, $10 a piece. And I sold probably 6 to 8 of them, which is pretty good. And it was a good way to get rid of some inventory. And then my experience with the sealed product, because what I did for this show was I bought a bunch of high-end singles and then sealed product. So anything above $100 is what I brought for the singles. And then sealed product, basically all my Bs and collection boxes is what I brought. And I sold a decent amount. I was able to use some of them for trade, which was pretty good because I could trade. One of them was I traded a $400, or I traded an Evolving Skies ETB for some cards. And for me, that's a win because it's much easier for me to sell $400 worth of cards than it is for me to sell an ETB, because in ETB, there's a shipping part that's expensive. The fees add up really high on those. Granted, 13% of 400 it's the same either way, but it's just selling ETB for some reason, it's just super expensive. I don't know why, it just feels that way, but that's whatever. So I was able to use those as trade, I guess they call it trade bait. So that was good. And another thing, actually, I forgot to mention, but one of the biggest reasons why I don't enjoy it is because I was prepping everything alone. And if you have to do it all by yourself, and then you also have to be at the show by yourself, it's very stressful in both scenarios. The prepping is very time consuming, and then at the show is very stressful. And fortunately, my fiance came for the last 5 hours of the show. And she was doing really good. She doesn't know much about the Pokemon and all that, but she was having conversations with everyone, pulling out cards from the cases, and just doing a bunch of help. And it helped. It made it a much better experience being with her because I was able to focus on the person I'm dealing with when there's multiple people there. And that definitely made it a much better experience. So I think if you have someone to go with and be there and plan with you and be there with you, then it might be a lot better. But if you're doing it all by yourself, it's definitely a lot harder. And last thing this one is a complaint. I don't like complaining a lot, but this one is a complaint that I've noticed. And I didn't notice it until I bought a collection from someone that I know in one of the Facebook groups, and he was also at the card show last month. And he was saying that he felt there was too many sellers for the amount of people actually going there to buy stuff. And at first, I didn't realize it because it was my first show. I have nothing to compare to. But then I came to the second show, and they added even more sellers. I think they added 40 more tables from a 200 table original amount. And I think I definitely understand why they would want to have more sellers, because it means they make more money per table, or make more money on the tables. They could possibly have more things for the buyers to buy. But it definitely has to be balanced, because when you have 240 sellers and then you have 1,000 buyers or 2,000 buyers, you could see how that could become a problem. Because instead of me competing with 200 people, now I'm competing with an extra 40 more tables, and not everyone's going to go through 240 tables if you're at the show. That's just, no one has the time to do that. So I think that is a big issue that I noticed, and I don't think there is any way around it, because no venue is just going to have less sellers. And maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I think it makes sense, but let me know what you guys think. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to be going back to just strictly focusing on eBay. Speaking of which, that is one of the reasons why it's hard. If you were to sell only at card shows, then it definitely makes sense to enjoy it, because if you could do $2,000 a weekend every single week for a month, that's $8,000 right there. No fees. If it's a cash deal, you don't have to report it, whatever. I don't even know if that's allowed, but people don't report their cash earnings most times. And if you could do it like that, then it makes sense, because you have all your stuff prepped. You're not pulling inventory from one spot to the other. You have it already all in one place. So for that, it makes more sense. If you were to just do strictly vending and maybe Facebook sales, that could work. But for me, selling on eBay and TCGplayer to then incorporate vending, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I would much rather just focus on the eBay and TCGplayer. Even TCGplayer I'm slowing down on, but that's another video. But that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think, and let me know how your experience vending has been. I know it differs from everyone, so don't be worried if you want to vend and you hear my opinion saying negative things about it, because like I've mentioned many times before, what works for me might not work for you, and what works for you might not work for me. So keep that in mind. Try it out if you haven't, and let me know how it goes. And I wish you all the best, and I'll see you tomorrow.